everyone, welcome back once again to Simply Scented Life. Thanks for joining me today for another post-burn in-depth review. This time we are taking a look at Kringle Candle's Winter Reserve Fragrance Ice. And I apologize, I'm recycling this scene one more time. I am really kind of feeling under the weather today. It really just kind of hit me yesterday after filming, but I really want to go take a nap, but I'm so close to having these reviews done, and this launch for these candles is happening this week on Thursday, December 4th at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So I just really wanted to get this out for you guys ahead of the launch. All of the launch information, everything you need to know, including the other fragrances in this collection, will all be in the description of this video, along with the links to the 3 other reviews that I have done for this collection. And I didn't buy all 6. The ambassadors were offered the opportunity to pre-order from this launch, and I bought 4 out of the 6. So this is my 4th of the reviews for the candles that I bought. The other 2 I decided to pass on, but I know there are some reviews out there from other ambassadors, so make sure you take a look around, see what others are saying about all of these candles. But this will be the last from me for this launch. Now, if you do decide to shop this launch on Thursday, you're welcome to use my affiliate code Simply Scented to get yourself 15% off of your purchase. Just know this is a commissioned code, and I do thank each and every one of you who chooses to use that. It really does mean a lot to me. And just make sure you check your rewards accounts as well. Sometimes that works out to be a better deal. So if you have some points saved up, make sure you check that. Get yourself the most savings possible, because that's what we're all about here. I know this is a very tough time to have this launch. There's a lot going on right now. All the sales that we just had for Black Friday. I know Bath & Body Works Candle Day is coming up, and all the holiday shopping and everything. It's a tough time to want to spend. So make sure you're saving the most you possibly can. And we're going to try to keep things pretty streamlined here today. I will give you Kringle's scent notes here, and we will get into my interpretation of the scent. We'll talk performance, and then we will wrap this up. I'm going to kick things off by letting you guys know that this review is based on about 35 hours of burn time, and this candle here has a pour date of July 16th, 2025. So it is good and ready to be burned. I've gotten through a good amount of it, and I know it's really hard to see on screen right now. I will show this candle burning a little bit later on in the performance piece, and you can kind of see where I'm at, but about 35 hours or so in. And for our scent notes here from Kringle, they give us top notes of Icy Mint, Evergreen Forest, and Crisp Apple, mid notes of Frozen River Edge, Hyacinth, and Warm Cinnamon, and base notes of Snowy Sandalwood, Cedarwood, and Sugary Vanilla. All right, so taking a look at this fragrance here, Ice. On my cold sniff impression here, definitely a fresh and cool scent, but I will say it was not overly minty on that initial cold sniff, not overly mentholated. There's definitely an aquatic, watery tone about it, which is good because we've called this candle Ice. And even though it's conceptual, I would expect some sort of watery tone, something aquatic. And I do get hints of floral with this one. So, I mean, I would say this is a fairly neutral, fresh scent. It doesn't lean masculine to my nose whatsoever. If anything, it does lean just slightly feminine with that floralness in the background there. But overall, fairly neutral. Now, as most of these conceptual scents do, it did have a nice cold to warm transition where you start to get a little bit more of the nuances of the other notes that they give us here, but it does still hold its overall feeling of being a sort of fresh, cool, aquatic sort of scent. And to be honest, it's really not really like anything in my collection. I don't really have anything that would kind of compare apples to apples with this fragrance. So definitely has a nice uniqueness factor going for it here. And it does really seem to fit the concept of ice. Now the key notes here to my nose here are the Icy Mint and the Frozen River Edge. So we'll talk about the Icy Mint first. To me, this is really just leaning more of a cool feeling. You do get a little bit of a minty quality, but it's not dominating to the point where This feels like just another mint candle because there are a lot of mint candles out there, but this definitely lets the other notes shine, especially that aquatic note. And to my nose, I would say this kind of falls in line with sort of a fresh and just slightly sweet peppermint. It's not like a candied peppermint. It doesn't read as sweet as a spearmint note does usually to me. It doesn't feel like that wintergreen mint. Yes, and wintergreen mint, that almost gum-like mint. I don't get any of that here. It's just a nice, just mildly sweet, fresh, sort of peppermint note. And the way it kind of plays with this frozen river edge note here, I'm going to kind of give you an example, and hopefully it makes sense and it doesn't confuse you too much, but this is what kind of comes to mind as I'm smelling this fragrance. If you think in terms of pouring something over ice, specifically like if you were to pour something sort of fizzy, like a seltzer water over ice cubes, swap out that effervescent, bubbly feeling for a minty coolness. That's kind of like what this almost smells like to me, is if I were to take a can of some sort of fizzy seltzer water freshly over ice, after those bubbles die down and the glass kind of settles, that smell that you get right before you take a sip, that's almost what this candle sort of feels like for me. Again, I don't want to confuse you. It's not effervescent and bubbly, but just like that same sort of coolness, that rush, that the bubbles tend to lean to a drink like that, like making it kind of come up, come out, give you that fresh feel of fresh ice. That's kind of what I get from this candle. Now, with those being sort of the primary focus of this candle, the other notes do come out here a little bit in a little bit more conceptual way, all kind of bringing different things to the table here. In terms of like the Evergreen Forest and the cedarwood, I would say to my nose, I get a little bit more in terms of the Evergreen Forest quality and more of a background element. This doesn't feel like a in the woods sort of candle to me, but it does feel slightly outdoors. And I think that Evergreen Forest here, just like a hint of a green quality to the background, adding to that sort of fresh appeal of this fragrance. Definitely more so than like a heavier cedarwood note, though I'm sure it is in there at in some form. I'm just not personally getting a lot of that. Then you have that crisp apple, which again, it's not something where I smell this and think, oh, this is an apple fragrance. It doesn't come across that way, but I do feel like it's in there. I think it's kind of combining a little bit with, we've got crisp apple, sugary vanilla, and warm cinnamon. So all of that, I think, kind of combines to create just a little bit of a sweet contrast, something that just softens up this fragrance a little bit against some of those little bit more sharp things like mint and the water note here. It kind of adds a little bit of a balance to an otherwise very sort of fresh and potent kind of fragrance, where you add a little bit of a sweetness from an apple, a little bit of that sugary vanilla, just to kind of smooth it out a little bit. I don't get a distinct cinnamon note at all, but there is just something just very ever so slightly warm in contrast to that cool icy tone here. And I think that's kind of how these other notes here are kind of coming through. The apple itself not being like overly sweet or overly juicy or anything like that, just a little bit crisp, as they say. And the other thing here with the sandalwood, that could also be coming into play a little bit. It's not screaming sandalwood at me by any means, but again, something a little bit soft in the background here, especially like the more I burn this, getting a little bit more of that sort of just slightly sandalwood-like tone where you have that a little bit softer wood element, and just the snowy quality of it, just adding a little bit more into this freshness. And just overall, these notes play very nicely together. The one thing I'm just not totally loving here is this hyacinth note, which I mentioned there is something just slightly feminine creeping in my cold sniff impression. I do get this hyacinth note. It's in the background. Again, not striking me as an overall floral candle, but there is definitely that sort of floral quality about this hyacinth note. And the thing for me is the way that's kind of, the way that it's reading to my nose is at times, it makes this almost feel like it has a little bit of a hairspray like quality at times. I know that sounds awful, and I'm not trying to put anybody off because it's not totally off-putting even to me. It's just it kind of comes through at times where it makes me think just for a second, did somebody spray hairspray? But then it kind of fades, and you do get the other notes in there as well. But it's just that's just the one piece here that keeps this being more of a like for me rather than a love, even though I really do like these fresh, cool scents. Now, the good news here with this candle, performance has been great. I will say no issues whatsoever with the burn, not burning overly hot, just general wick trimming as needed, not letting it go too long and that sort of thing. Standard candle care. I'm having absolutely no issues with the burn, which is great. And the strength, I will say, of the 4 that I have reviewed, this is definitely the strongest. It has had the strongest presence by far. I would say in terms of numbers, for me, this has been somewhere around a 7, maybe 7.5, depending on where I put it. Definitely making itself known, and because it's such a fresh scent, it does have a nice sort of refreshing quality about it, which if you've been burning a lot of scents that are maybe a little bit heavier and you want to clear something out, or even kind of one of those after cooking scents where you want to kind of freshen up your air a little bit, this does have a nice refreshing quality about it, especially with that strength being on the stronger side. So for that, definitely great. And the throw itself also kind of on the high end, which is kind of in keeping with those stronger scents as it is. I would say similar number 7. We're talking in terms of the actual throw. It definitely fills my open concept space. It moves around. This does creep up my stairway a little bit into other areas of my home at times. So definitely making itself known, and definitely the best performance out of the 4 that I have reviewed. So if you are looking for something that's going to have a little bit more power, this might be the one for you if you like this type of scent category. Now, the last piece here I will leave you with in terms of comparisons for this scent. I said before, this is pretty unique. I don't really have anything that I can give you that compares apples to apples, at least not in my experience. Maybe there's something out there that does, but for me, what I can tell you is if you enjoy more conceptual based minty scents like Kringle Candle's Reserve Peppermint Pop, if you had that one, that is definitely having a different feel of this candle that is more mint focused, but it is also a conceptual sort of mint where mint is not the only element going on. There's different things. There's a hint of floral in that one as well. So if you liked Peppermint Pop, you might enjoy this. Again, not a total comparison there, but just sort of in that same genre of a conceptually minty sort of fragrance. That's probably the best I can do in terms of comparisons. So maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't, but either way, thank you guys. If you have joined me through all of these reviews, especially, thank you so much. If I had to rank them, I would probably put this at number 4, Smoldering Ember at number 3, despite some burn issues, and then Snowy Cascade at number 2, and Frosted Dawn at number 1. So hopefully that helps you in determining what you want to go for on Thursday if you're going to be shopping. But thank you guys so much for joining me. And if you liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I do have a lot of videos that I need to get done that might have to wait till next week, depending how I'm feeling. I feel like I'm going to lose my voice with this, whatever this is. My throat is on fire right now. So I'm trying to get through this, but I have November empties to film. I have a Yankee haul to film. I have a Kringle sale order to film. So I've got a lot of things that I want to get done, but some of it might have to wait. So just bear with me, guys. This might be my last video this week. But either way, thank you guys for joining. And I hope you get whatever you have your heart set on for this launch. Don't expect a ton of quick sellouts except for maybe Frosted Dawn. So if you have your heart set on that, I would probably order it sooner rather than later. But otherwise, I think a lot of these will stick around for you to take your time and decide. And yeah, that's about it for today. So if I don't talk to you guys again, have a great weekend, and I will be back as soon as I can.